So Theresa May is gone. That sound you can hear is Terry Barnes not caring. So she's
exactly right.
Yeah. So she's gone. Now look, I'll be really honest. I think you've got to be a pretty nasty bastard not to feel for her in that last press conference, because one of the things that is very difficult for any world leader is just whatever happens, don't cry. And I don't think she was crying because it was Suki La time. I think she cried at the end because it's just so much. It's so much pressure. It's so much, knowing that you're talking, in real time about the last line of a political epitaph. I mean, I can understand why people wobble. So you really can't hook into them too hard. It's made a little more difficult being the second female Prime Minister because then it gets interpreted slightly differently. So, I'm all up on what is clearly the personal tragedy. But what's your sense here? Because I was watching our colleagues in the UK and they've got some great shows. If you happen to be completely unable to sleep like I can until very early the next day, they've got sort of these great little politics shows in the middle of the night, after midnight on the East Coast in Australia, Adam Bolt and all the rest of it. And they went off to various parts of the country to talk to Conservative members, because the membership of the Conservative Party will have a chance to pick the next Prime Minister, and they all seemed pretty fired up for Boris Johnson. But we know in the past Boris Johnson has tried to go for this job but has sort of been manoeuvred out of it by a whole collection of people who Australians couldn't care less about. So I'll just ask you, over, under, 50%, little bit more, little bit less, Boris Johnson is the next Prime Minister?
No, I don't think he will be. I think you got half of that right, Paul, in the sense that the members of the Tory party do elect the leader, but it's actually the Tory parliamentary party that puts up two candidates to the membership. And there's a Melbourne Cup field at the moment, including Boris, and yes, he is the front runner in the runners and riders, but there are a lot of others who basically, on both the Remainer and the Brexiteer side, who can't stand him and think that basically he's an old-fashioned showman populist. And they're going to do their best to make sure he's one of those final two. So I think he's going to find it a hard road to hoe, and especially now that his campaign chairman, who stabbed him in the back, Michael Gove, has declared as a candidate.
And that is all worth mentioning, absolutely worth mentioning, is that, he can be hobbled before he gets there. Michael Danby, let's talk about... Theresa May had this impossible thing to do, which is this bizarre scenario where... she had to deliver Brexit, but she decided to go to an election to improve her majority, knowing that there were factions that just won't support Brexit, won't support a halfway Brexit. So she wanted to have the biggest majority possible to be able to have a coalition of at least her own MPs that would get her over the line.
I'm less sentimental about her than you, Paul. I think she's the worst British Prime Minister since the war.
Oh.
I think she... she did the same mistake as Malcolm Turnbull, had a long election campaign that went for weeks and weeks and weeks. She was 21 points ahead of Corbyn and she just let it all fizzle out. She's run the Brexit strategy terribly. She's neither, you say in Yiddish, nicht hier, nicht her. She was neither here nor there. And, I think the majority of the British people voted to leave, and she has mightily pissed them off so much that the Conservatives are running 12 in the European elections. Labor, I've just heard, was running only 17. And Nigel Farage, who is a far-right character, is now running this Brexit party that's getting 35 or 37% of the vote. Wow. I mean, the British politics have been really undermined, destroyed, and there's big news yet to come after this MEP elections. If there's this leadership thing's going to allegedly take them out for 2 months. So the whole May disaster isn't over yet.
Yeah, but David Cameron's actually worse because he handed her the shit sandwich, which was basically calling the referendum, then
pissing off,
nobbling the Brexit campaign, but having no plan for Brexit winning, and then resigning on the day of the result. So poor Theresa May actually tried to keep everybody happy and kept nobody happy.
So you think David Cameron is worse than Theresa May?
Because he caused the whole bloody problem.
Gee, I thought you were going to get stuck into Labor, Pete.
And can we all agree Jeremy Corbyn would be worse than all of them?
Oh, yeah.
We do agree on that one.
He'd be at home with Putin, you know?
Yeah, correct. All right, but God forbid if you show Albo's Instagram feed where he publicly posts a photo. I mean, God forbid, that's evil muckraking. Fair dinkum. Look, Campbell, I know it matters. I know what its consequences are. our mate Peter Burner, who's about to come up in the next section, he talks about the compassion pie. That there's only so much that you can fit in. Some's for your mum, some's for your family, some's for the dog that's sick, some's for the kid that's across the road, some's for the charity that you take attention in. The political cake, we've just had so much Australian chat. We always keep an eye on Trump, all the rest of it here. I know there are those that are deeply invested, and I could talk for hours about it. But there'll be people watching us right now, all over the country, that'll be going, move on, boys. What do you think?
Oh, look, it's hard not to feel for, at that moment, but I'm with Michael in terms of her performance. And by the way, I did admire the way she sort of was able to conduct herself in the Commons. She was able to debate fiercely and put Corbyn, right back in his box. But what got me was she wasn't able to translate that into an outcome, and particularly what she should have done is wrapped herself in the flag of as the standard bearer of the British public who'd voted for Brexit. I never saw her flaying the House of Commons with, listen, we're going to get this, we have to get this done. That's what people voted for, and really putting it on them that they were the blockers, even her own party. I didn't see her using the people to her advantage. And, what a wasted couple of years. I mean, just absolutely wasted years with Britain with no direction and no outcome.